Undocumented workers contribute $1.1 billion in state and local taxes in New York State. So if New York State were to somehow deport all undocumented workers in New York, they would have a tax gap of $1.1 billion. Let's talk through how immigrants are paying these taxes and the potential benefits that they get from it. So the first is if the IRS gives out ITIN numbers, individual taxpayer identification numbers, to people who don't qualify for Social Security numbers. And so if you're working undocumented with an ITIN number, you pay for income tax. Your employer will deduct that from your paycheck. Many undocumented immigrants file these taxes using the ITIN number in order to comply with federal law, so that if they are able to have a pathway to citizenship, that they will it will help them for future legal status applications. Undocumented workers also pay payroll taxes, Social Security, including Social Security and Medicare, if they are using a false or borrowed Social Security number. So a lot of undocumented people will steal or have a false Social Security number, or if they're using ITIN, and their employer will withhold payroll taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and income tax from their wages, just like they do any other worker, any other legal worker. That said, they cannot claim these benefits. Also, undocumented workers pay sales tax when they buy goods and services, obviously, just like the rest of us. If they own property, they pay property taxes, of course. If they're renters, they pay it indirectly, right? The landlord pays the property tax, but the renters contribute towards the rent that pays for those property taxes. If they also pay excise taxes, so undocumented immigrants, if they're buying goods like gasoline or alcohol or tobacco, they're also paying that excise taxes. Generally speaking, undocumented workers in New York State are not getting benefits from the tax system. So on the federal level, undocumented people are not eligible for Social Security, Medicare, or earned income tax credits. But some tax filers, some undocumented tax filers, if you have an ITIN number, can get the child tax credit if their children have Social Security numbers. So if you're undocumented but your child has legal status, then you can qualify for the child tax credit. Most of these undocumented workers, if they're working with falsified papers, they are paying taxes to the government. That's why there's such a large sum in New York State, $1.1 billion. They want to comply with the law. If there is they want to establish a financial record for potential future legal status. Also, many employers, if they don't realize that their employees are undocumented, are going to withhold taxes just like they would do any person. Now, if workers are being paid, quote unquote, off the books in cash, then they are not contributing to these taxes and there is no paper trail. That's the big exception. Obviously, there is a huge amount of undocumented workers in New York who are just being paid in cash, and those people are not contributing to the tax base. But in general, New York State has one of the largest undocumented worker populations here, and so that's why you see one of the largest tax contributions from undocumented workers in the country.